how
Hey
are
Tom.
you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. So if you haven't already registered for today's InfoSec session, Architect Tomorrow, please find the details down below. But Oliver, let's talk about yesterday's keynote with Ian Hill and from obviously BAM, Royal BAM. How was that?
Yeah, it was interesting. Ian touched on quite a few things that were talked about in day one, but what he really majored on was the geopolitical sort of side of things, how cyber is potentially going to kind of create tensions between different countries and sort of the physical security sort of side of things, how that intertwines. So that was an interesting angle that Ian talked about.
Yeah, definitely. And then he also talked about the challenges faced with supply chain.
Yeah, he did. So supply chain is an interesting one because I think a lot of organisations, like the ones we're surrounded by here, have spent a lot of money and thrown lots of people at the problem of cybersecurity because they're able to because they have the budgets. But what he was saying was quite interesting. Like if you look at your risk profile for suppliers, actually it's probably the smaller suppliers that are the ones that you need to kind of be worried about, concerned about, because they may not have the budgets to secure themselves, and they may be the back door in which people can get through and get into your organisation.
Yeah, definitely. And then he also touched on security endpoints and zero trust. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the securing endpoints and zero trust is something that comes up a lot, and it was touched on a lot yesterday as well. But for me, what really resonated, given what we do as an endpoint management security platform, is worrying about the security of the endpoint and not worrying too much about what's in between the endpoint and the other end. Making sure you've got visibility, control, and security of the endpoints is crucial. Like organisations that don't have that, I think are really struggling. And again, he said, that endpoint security is pivotal and foundational. So lots of people saying the same thing that we say and hear from our customers.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Oliver. Day 2 at InfoSec with Scott Lowe from Endpoint X and Greg Vandergaas, CISO at a number of organisations. The great discussion around solving the root cause of ransomware and how Scott led a team at Barclays. And what were your thoughts on that?
It was a great conversation between Greg and Scott because they're both seasoned professionals who've both used Tanium and Anger, used it to solve big chunky problems for the organisations they've worked for, and it was great to sort of see them comparing notes on sort of success stories and lessons learned from using Tanium in real life environments.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm very cautious of clicking on random links and phishing attacks. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely, and it was interesting to hear Scott and Greg talking about this because people are often scapegoated, and it's the users that click on the link in error, and it's very convenient to point the finger there. But the reality is, as Greg was saying, actually it's misconfiguration, it's basics being missed, and it's also spending money in the wrong places, like throwing money at the problem when actually you just need to get the basics sorted, understand what your environment looks like. The world is complex, I know that. Business is complex, technology is complex to support complex businesses now, but that's no excuse for not having something that gives you real-time visibility, because with that you can be really confident you're on top of the challenges, and actually people will unfortunately click on links from time to time, but actually it shouldn't be a massive explosion that then causes major problems for this organisation.
Definitely.
And if it does, you need to be in a position to be able to respond, and that's the other thing that they were talking about.
Yeah.
And that's coming back to the point really, they're solving the root cause of ransomware is A, getting the basics fixed, getting your house in order, B, if things do slip through the net, how do you rapidly respond and proactively deal with it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great discussion, and I'm really looking forward to today's Architect Tomorrow session.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. As you know, the kind of Architect Tomorrow community has been growing for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And we're really going to kind of get under the skin of what pieces of the architecture are important, particularly when it comes to securing your organisation.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I look forward to seeing people on the call.